handsome, powerfully built, an imposing presence. "Good afternoon, sir," Goodman said placidly. A representative of the Marchioness of Tremaine, however impressed, neither gawked nor gushed. He expected to be offered a calling card and a reason for the call. Instead, he was handed the gentleman's headgear. Startled, he let go of his hold on the doorknob and took the satin-trimmed top hat. In that instant, the man walked past him into the vestibule. Without a backward glance or an explanation for this act of intrusion, he began pulling off his gloves. "Sir," Goodman huffed, "you do not have permission from the lady of the house to enter." The man turned around and shot Goodman a glance that, to the butler's shame, made him want to curl up and whimper. "Is this not the Tremaine residence?" "It is, sir." The reiteration of "sir" escaped Goodman, though he hadn't intended for it to happen. "Then kindly inform me, since when does the master of the house require permission from the lady to enter into his own domain?" The man held his gloves together in his right hand and slapped them quietly against the palm of his left, as if toying with a riding crop. Goodman didn't understand. His employer was the Queen Elizabeth of her time, one mistress and no master. Then the horror dawned. The man before him was the Marquis of Tremaine, the Marchioness's long-absent, good-as-dead husband and heir to the Duke of Fairford. "I do beg your pardon, sir." Goodman held on to his professional calm and took Lord Tremaine's gloves, though he was suddenly perspiring. "We have had no notice of your arrival. I shall have your chambers prepared immediately. May I offer you some refreshments in the meanwhile?" "You may, and you may see to the unloading of my luggage," said Lord Tremaine. "Is Lady Tremaine at home?" Goodman could not detect any unusual inflection in Lord Tremaine's tone. It was as if he had simply come in from an afternoon snooze at his club. After 10 years. "Lady Tremaine is taking a constitutional in the park, sir." Lord Tremaine nodded. "Very good." Goodman instinctively trotted after him, the way he'd trail a feral beast if it happened to have made it past the front door. It was only half a minute later, as Lord Tremaine turned about and raised a brow, that Goodman realized he'd already been dismissed. Something about his wife's townhouse disturbed Lord Tremaine. It was surprisingly elegant. He had half expected to see the kind of interior he'd become accustomed to in the houses of his neighbours on Lower Fifth Avenue. Grandiose, gilded, aiming only to recall the last days of Versailles. She had a few chairs from that era, but they had held their share of velvet-clad bottoms and looked comfortable rather than luxurious. Neither did he encounter the heavy sideboards and unchecked proliferation of bric-a-brac that were firmly associated, in his mind, with English homes. If anything, her residence bore an uncanny resemblance to a certain villa in Turin, at the foot of the Italian Alps, in which he had spent a few happy weeks during his youth. A house with wallpapers of soft antique gold and muted aquamarine, faience pots of orchids atop slender wrought-iron stands, and durable, well-made furniture from the previous century. During an entire boyhood of decamping from one domicile to the next, the villa had been the only place, other than his grandfather's estate, where he'd felt at home. He had loved its brightness, its uncluttered comfort, and its abundance of indoor plants, their breath moist and herbaceous. He was inclined to dismiss the echoing similarity between the two houses as a coincidence, until his attention shifted to the paintings that adorned the walls of her drawing-room. Between the Rubens, the Titian, and the ancestral portraits that occupied disproportionate acreage on English walls, she had hung pieces by the very same modern artists whose works he displayed.